he's over-taught a little too much. So I've been wanting to, I want to like talk to a few students and like know their opinions. So the first off, do you think Shakespeare is overemphasized too much?
I don't know. He might be a little bit. I don't think we just shouldn't teach him in general, but I feel like he was an important enough part of the history of theater and acting and writing in general to be taught in schools.
Okay, overemphasized is a very broad term. I'd say that yes, I believe that Shakespeare is overemphasized. I think that no one can possibly live up to the level of hype that Shakespeare is placed under. The best thing about learning Shakespeare is like that it's very good for reading comprehension, and it's very good to read something from a different time that is so drastic because it provides a good comparison between the two.
To be or not to be? That is the question. We know what we are, but know not what we may be. Knock knock, who's there? These two quotes and the origin of the knock knock joke are from plays by one of the most famous writers and the most famous English writer, William Shakespeare. No doubt you've seen his face on a poster in an English class or anywhere in a school before. He has written various plays from 1590 to 1613, some of which you may recognize, like Hamlet, Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet. Despite how old it all is, all of his work is still talked about, his plays are still performed, and they still get movie adaptations. A lot of movies and shows have tons of references to his work, and every single English class teaches about him. The problem comes in here. Every single English class teaches about him like he's the only old English writer in history. That's when this question is asked. Is Shakespeare overtaught?
But yeah, through the American school system, they made me read The Tempest for school twice.
Is he empathized when there are so many writers out there that people can study for? Are his plays really any good? A lot of questions I'm sure a lot of students want answers to. It all depends if the plays aged well. Let's take a look. First of all, I'm not saying that Shakespeare shouldn't be talked about. We shouldn't let his work be forgotten and they should still be performed, but is it all worth doing 50-page essays on? Shakespeare is infamous for his dialogue, a lot of monologues. Can't go one scene without someone making a big speech. Even the minor characters aren't safe from this. Not only that, but they are also known for never having proper translations. What do I mean by that? Like any language, English evolved and changed over time, so listening to this dialogue that's hundreds of years old is like trying to remember words from a dream. It sounds like what a non-English speaker would think English sounds like.
So foul and fair a day I have not seen.
How far is called to Forest?
I do have to admit, it does sound pretty cool at times, and it's interesting to hear how a language can change over time. But it doesn't sound cool when a student who sounds like they haven't gotten any sleep in days is trying so desperately to pronounce these old words while they constantly stumble on sentences. It's especially painful when they think they have to fake a British accent.
I think there should be a translated version, but they should still show the original. They should still have you read through the original, or maybe just like... I guess they should just let you do whichever one you want to do.
I think that a lot of the problems come from how bad No Fear is. Like, when I was reading the No Fear for Midsummer, because I'm doing Midsummer at school, I was reading it and I was like, damn, these jokes would be so funny in modern English if they were written with any shred of the level that Shakespeare wrote them with.
Students are already tired from being forced to overanalyze everything. Now you're just gonna torture them. And it doesn't help that they have to say monologues that go on for an eternity. For people who have to perform it, this especially makes memorizing much more difficult. Earlier, I said there are no proper translations. That's because there are a few translations of a couple plays, but they're translated in ways that make it sound robotic. For example, Once my English class was reading The Tempest in its modern English translation. A girl just had this 5-minute long monologue about how this guy was still alive or something, and the other guy's response to her was literally, "Please be quiet." Of course, the whole class laughed at this. When I read the original text, I saw that "Please be quiet" was originally "Prithee peace." That sounds so much cooler. Why didn't they make that? This, mixed with the tired delivery of the students, just makes it sound weird and boring. Also, the word reading is where our next problem comes in, the reading of his plays. You can easily look up any of his plays and buy the entirety of the script, all in book format. This is usually how the class knows the entirety of the play. The teachers usually show them one or just a few clips of a movie version of the play, or a performance of it. That's a big problem. Unless you're gonna perform it, which the class never does, Shakespeare is meant to be watched, not read.
In my opinion, I think watching it would be better and more fun for the kids.
This is the reason why no one wants to learn about it, because they're confused while reading characters talking in a language that sounds like you should understand it, but you don't. So, here's the last question. Are his plays even any good? Well, let's take a look at a few. 2 of his tragedies. If something's in the tragedy genre, isn't that technically a spoiler? I always wonder that. The first one being Macbeth, a story of war and becoming overpowered. It's about a soldier, Macbeth, who has his fate told to him, which he takes for granted, eventually leaving him with too much power. He becomes so drunk with it that it eventually destroys his entire life, kills his wife, and then eventually leads to his own death. The next one being one of his most famous stories, Hamlet. A story that's about a young man named Hamlet, of course, who desperately tries to get revenge on his uncle for killing his dad. He becomes so corrupt with vengeance that it makes him into a monster. He's able to kill his uncle, but at the cost of the life of his friends, family, and his own. These aren't tragedies in a way that just goes, screw it, everyone just dies in the end. But these are tragedies in a way that tells a lesson. Like, getting too much power can corrupt you and can ruin everything. Becoming so obsessed with revenge can take away everything you loved. These are great plays that honestly should be taught. But then you go to plays like Romeo and Juliet, another tragedy but also a romantic comedy. It's a story about Romeo, a 20-year-old guy who falls in love with Juliet, a 13-year-old, at first sight. Eventually, they both stop to kill a bunch of people so they could get together, and they do a whole bunch of other stunts. And it's all for nothing. They both die in the end. A well-intended message about how you shouldn't fall in love at first sight and shouldn't do stupid things to get the person you love. But did you have to make the main characters this dislikable? Was it intentional? You can make something that has the antagonist as the main character, but they aren't antagonists. They show who the antagonists are. They're just 2 stupid main leads. Another play a lot of people study for is Midsummer's Night Dream, which is I don't even know. You'll spend just more time trying to remember the names of these characters. The whole play isn't really anything. It sure does live up to its name because the whole thing is just like a dream. Stuff just happens and no one questions anything. There's something with the love triangle and somebody has the head of a donkey, which is where the phrase asshead came from, by the way. It's completely nonsensical and makes no sense, and I think it was meant to make no sense. It was just written for entertainment, not for anyone to analyze it, which apparently people do. So, those are his plays. Sometimes they're great, brilliant even. Other times they're stupid, but entertaining. But it doesn't matter how they are. The class has to study about them, read through them over and overanalyze the crap out of them. If you go to a video, rather it be a clip of a play or a summary, the comment sections are just students talking about how they're just here because they have a test coming up. They don't care about the story, they don't know what the message is, they just want answers to the teacher's questions. And that's not cool. No matter how old the work of an artist is, or if the artists themselves are dead or alive, no one deserves to have their work forced on others and overanalyze, eventually leading people to hate it. Shakespeare wrote his plays for what? Because he just wanted to. And also for people's entertainment, not for people to be trying to study them up until midnight, being forced to write 5-page essays on. Again, nobody deserves this. They deserve to have their work be enjoyed by the world. That's it. So, in conclusion, is Shakespeare emphasized?
I think it's fine as long as they don't overdo it. But I don't, like, at least when I did the Shakespeare unit and everything, I don't think they overdid it.
So I think it should be taught, overall, I think it should be taught well. It should be, like, taught well by people who actually care and understand the material to high school students and above.
His works should definitely be known about. It's important to know about where these famous quotes came from and what inspires modern shows and movies. But he needs to be taught in a much better way. He should be mixed in with other old writers, keeping it perfectly balanced. Don't force it upon others, because that just takes away what these are meant to be, for people to enjoy. Alright, that's the short conclusion. Sorry that I didn't upload that much. It's just school, mental health, and a whole bunch of other crap in real life. If something urgent happens, I will let everyone know. I don't like to leave everybody hanging. And I know this wasn't the best New Year's video, but I thought I should at least do something before this year ends. And I know old me would say something like, oh, our year is gonna get worse, just like 2020, but I grew to realize it's not a good year until you make it one. This year wasn't perfect, it had its ups and downs. I know there's a lot of people out there that don't have hope for the next years to come. There's a lot of people out there that have few, if not any happy days at all. But if you're seeing this video, know that there are only a few days until the new year, and you can make it there. I know I'm just one guy saying this, but listen if you want to, and always have hope for the future. Just thought of putting a final message in this video since it's my last until 2023. If you happen to stumble upon this video, check out my channel to see if you like it or not, and I will catch all of you in the next one.
Alright, that's good to know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Alright, good. Oh, good.
Good. Yes.
Good.